Welcome to Narrowboat with James Bill. Hope you're well. Thanks for joining me. I'm in the bow bedroom and I need to get cracking on the wardrobe here and therefore the water system. So the water tank is down there and it's half full, which doesn't make this particularly easy. It's got a tap on it, so at least it's not flooding the boat, but I need to basically, now I've got the calorifier on board, I need to start laying out the first fix of the water system and at the same time make the carcass for the wardrobe here. I've already come up with a problem though. One of the main things I need to house with inside the wardrobe is one of these, an adult size coat hanger. And it's not going to fit in. I could run it that way and get like a few in, which doesn't work either. It's not very particularly easy to see the clothes, certainly if you open the cupboards from this way, which I'm planning on. So I think what I'm going to have to do is have a rail kind of around that height and full height there, which isn't the end of the world. It just means I can't put any water gubbins directly there, which in fairness I wasn't going to. So I've got the pump which is going to go underneath the step there, so it's nice and easy to access, and then the accumulator tanks and all of that stuff are going to go on that wall there. So there's plenty of room in there before the calorifier. So that's going to be the plan. But first off, I need to go to the car and get out some CLS and start working out the frame for this. And I'm thinking, hopefully, I am going to be able to curve this side here. That'd be nice. This is a rather rudimentary setup. So Rob put in these tails here, which is really good. And these switches I've made. Obviously all the electrics work and stuff, so that's all good. But I need to change these switches, but these will be on the outside of the cupboard, possibly, or maybe down there, so I can turn them on and off from the bed. I'm not sure yet. This one here, which is the main centre light switch, will be on this side of the cupboard here as you walk in. Right, the first job was to apply some spray foam insulation to the exposed bits of steel as neatly as I could. So I can check that off the list. So I'm going to let that dry and then I can work out the cutting of the CLS to make the step formations, which will also take into the construction of both sides of the wardrobes. I know it's probably making life slightly harder for myself, but if the wardrobe's going to come down to there, I need to occupy this kind of lower space. I think I don't really want to kind of do myself out of that area there. Obviously it's pipe work and things that's going to have to come into play, but I'm going to want to use this area, so I'm going to put the first piece of CLS going across kind of right at the back there, so I can start to build it from the back. That end bar is kind of in place. Now the spray foam's dried, I can trim a little bit of that off. I put a batten in here as well, so I can affix like a bit of a wall bit to that. That I'll come to. My issue I've got at the moment is the step formation. I always realised I wasn't going to have much room to play with here, so I've got 2 foot between that bulkhead and the bed. That is all going to be step, just because of the height of it is 70, so to get down it's just, so that's going to be step. So the first bit floor you're going to come to is here, which I'm fine with that, that's okay, but that's where the halfway would be the halfway bit would be there. So if the 2 steps were the same width, then that's the halfway step, which looks like that's quite a narrow way in here. That doesn't look very generous, and I don't really need it to be like that. So what I was thinking, and I think I've had a bit of a breakthrough with this, if I was to position it a little bit like that, so that's the mirror of each other, so it's kind of a bit more like that or whatever. Anyway, I'll work that bit out. So this is much more generous here, and it's obviously the natural, kind of shows a natural way in then. So there's enough, as long as that bit there's enough of a step that you can comfortably get your foot on, and the same there, then that will make this opening much more pleasant. Yeah, I think that will work nicely. So I'm going to give that a go. Okay, I've made this slightly incorrect because I didn't make it long enough so I can notch out something on both edges. So it kind of, what's it, a half lap joint or something. So I need to do that. So I need to recut that. But that's essentially the idea. I think I've got that right. I think that's going to look pretty good like that, to be honest. Rather than both being square. Good. Okay, let's recut that one. Right, this is starting to take a bit more shape now. I've got this back support on here so I can put in the verticals going down. That one only goes to the step. It's all glued and screwed in place now. I now need to do this front bit and then the supports down there and then work out the best way to do the second step. I've kind of crudely cut this piece. It's not flush at the top yet, just so I can work out the anchoring points to the side of the bed. There's going to be no access to the bed from any of this stuff anyway, so I don't have to worry about doors or anything. Happy days. Right, I've got all the sides done now. Those lower bits are only kind of temporarily kind of tacked in place because I'm going to have to run some pipes behind it. But before I can do all of that because there's quite a lot of clearance there. But what I want to start to look at now is how this cupboard's going to be formed and made. And it kind of does dictate how I'm going to affix this lower step, the first step that you come to, which is probably going to be about yay high. I'm going to have to work that out, but I would like it to curve. But then, obviously, it's going to be like a weird gap thing wherever it meets this. It's going to be where the curve is. And it's either going to be down there on the floor or up here. But I think it's up here. It's going to be far more noticeable. So I think I'm just going to bring the curve right round from the bottom, which means, because I'm going to be cladding it in leather, means I can use loads of offcuts, which is good news. I immediately realised that all of my offcuts, the grain orientation is vertical, so therefore the board would have snapped. So I've had to use my last remaining full-size board, cut it up, and now I'm routing out the channel to do this, but it is going to make it harder to get this in. Now I put the top step in. I was envisaging doing it in much smaller sections, but I didn't have any sections with the correct grain orientation. So this is what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to hope it works. I eventually managed to get this routed out and in place, but I'm not very happy with it. It's not very easy to get in place now. I put the step in, and I'm going to be cladding this in that leatherette anyway. So, I mean, it's okay, but it's not very good down the bottom there. I didn't get the lines right on the routing, so as you can see, it's snapped. So that's not very good, even though I could probably cover that up. But it's really tricky to get it in, and it hasn't kind of worked the way I wanted it to, which is frustrating because I've potentially wasted quite a bit of timber on that. So I think I'm going to have to opt for just a straight square edged cupboard, which I'll probably still clad. But yeah, not quite the same effect I was going for, but yeah, I don't think that's going to work for me. Well, there's the truly snapped piece of timber there, so I'll put that to some other use. But before I build up the side now with 18mm ply, I've got to work out just lay the first fix for the water system up at this end, basically. So I just need the pump is probably going to be under that step, so it's nice and accessible. But all the pipe work is going to be kind of not visible, but accessible to go to all the main stuff, which is going to be under there, so it is really accessible. And it will have to just probably go under the step, or maybe around the back, I'm not sure yet. But I need the pump, and then accumulator and everything will all be in there. Right, let's do this. I'm going to place the water pump in this tray, and the tap to turn the system on and off, the cold feed. So first I just need to make a little cut in this to allow the feed in, and then I can position that underneath the step. Right, you'll see that the main water isolator tap is kind of, and some of the gubbins going beneath the water pump are kind of contained within this bucket, which is, it's not affixed to the floor because obviously then it would leak. So I'm just going to put a couple of brackets on there so it doesn't move anywhere, but that will contain any drips that might occur from the pump. But it's all quite neat and tidy, that underneath there. Now I've got to run a pipe going from there through this wall here, or the bulkhead of the bed, and then an elbow on it to turn left, so it can feed the expansion tank or the accumulator tank, which is going to be on the inside of this wall here. So I need to make a hole and some kind of nice way in for that pipe there. It's all going to be eclipsed by the second step, but I need to do that before I start making the second step. I've put this gland on this bulkhead for the bed to route out a little bit there, so it's kind of nicely in place. And then I've marked up these pipes, so the top one is the hot pipe, but then everything else is going to be inside that locker, so I can put this bulkhead now on the bed, and then I can easily just feed a pipe through there once I've obviously got the thingies on it, and that'll all be eclipsed by the step, but then it'll look quite, you know, kind of semi-professional. There we go. I'm quite happy with that. So now I can start to build up this second step. Right, so the second step is, well, kind of the frame of it's in. I'm thinking this unit here might kind of bend round that way or shape round that way a little bit, so the actual step might kind of curve round to make that look quite nice. I'm not sure yet, but that's where the weight of it all is. Now I need to put a back piece on there, and then I can start building up this side here. I've got my pipe work running behind there, I don't have to do anything with that now, so I can start building up this side of the wardrobe. Happy days. Using the old 9mm broken curved cupboard part, I'm going to use that as a template for the 18mm bit, so I'm going to use a track saw now just to rip this bit down. Okay, this is better using the 18mm, it's much more rigid and I get a much better fit. So yeah, this is good. I've just got to put some supports in it all now and then start building it up and using more 18 to do the top bit. Obviously that's going to be the cupboard. I'm just going to have one door because obviously getting to it's not, you know, so I'm going to reach over a little bit. Obviously you can stand on that step once it's in. Clothes rail is at that height there, so that's all going to be kind of hanging space. So I'm going to have to put a nice floor in there and then clean that up to make it all nice. Right, time to get this piece in. Hoping, oh no, I've cut it too short. How the fuck have I done that? Shit. Okay, take two. Oh yes, I think I've got it. Right, it's taking a bit of shape now. I just need to finish making this kind of fascia side here. The door is going to be basically most of this. So I'm pretty sure it's just going to be one cupboard door to access it all. Then there'll be kind of hanging down there and then shelves up here. Now the construction of the step is made, I can go about making the actual step. And for that, I'm hoping to reuse these two end pieces from the dining table, the two offcuts of English walnut. So I've made a template using cardboard. I'm just working out the best orientation now so that the two bits I've got fit in. I cannot get this wrong. Not bad.
Look at that. Straight out for a nice tea in the morning.
It's definitely the right height for the first step in.
Yeah.
And that is sturdy as you like. That is solid. Yeah, that feels good. That's a really good big step as well. That takes your foot well comfortably. Happy days. Bang on.
Happy with that.
Celebratory cup of tea, I think, is in order. That really does work well. There's so much room on there. These are size 10s, so there's loads of room there for the kids. That's going to be nice and easy, and even down there that doesn't feel like too much of a leg breaking area. This is good. I quite like that little bit of live veiny edge I've got on there, but it's going to be cut there slightly, so I might retain that small amount there on the first step, but I still need to trim that. I need to put the backing on the step, so there's still obviously quite a lot to do on there before they're finished. And as you can see, I need to protect the top of it somehow, because yeah, it's going to suffer from quite a lot of wear and tear. And in terms of wear and tear, Mother Nature did its bit, so there's a few kind of holes here I'm going to have to repair and fill, and there's a big one on the back which is actually quite deep. It's kind of big enough to get my whole kind of finger in there, and that one there. So I'm not worried really about its strength. It's only going to be a step. It's all going to be secured in place, but obviously, yeah, that can't do because it's susceptible, so I'll have to seal that with epoxy resin and then fill it with resin, with some kind of, well, it doesn't need to be a deep pour resin really, because it's not that cavernous in there, so it should be okay. But I'll do that another stage. I don't really need to do that yet. Oh, that's excellent. I'm chuffed with that. I'm mostly delighted that I did something with those two large chunks of off-cut walnut. I was forever moving them around. They weighed a ton. They're always in the way, and I was worried I wasn't going to do anything with them. So yeah, that's the right result. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.